Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and
George.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It is another edition of the Unofficial 40, presented by Schwab Meat Company, our good friends at schwabmeat.com. The official hot dog of game days, and also the official champion of the holidays. We'll be hearing from Billy Bowman and Kobe McKenzie and Jada Coleman just a little bit later. But thank you to Schwab for being the presenting sponsor for the Unofficial 40 all throughout the rest of the year. And we welcome in the boys because, Josh, you've had your say. Eddie and George, certainly your episode with Dari Noka yesterday was fantastic. Why are you smiling?
I just realized if Kobe McKenzie and Kinsey Hansen got married,
they were talking about that
it'd be
in here.
Kinsey McKenzie.
Yes,
that's insane.
Kinsey McKenzie would be
put that together. That's a great name.
Jada pointed that out to her while they were sitting here recording the spot.
Kinsey McKenzie.
And
that's
she knew.
Incredible name.
You could tell, like in her head, she'd been playing that out for a while. Like, if we get married, I'm gonna be Kinsey McKenzie.
They have to get married now. That's an unbelievable name. It'd be great.
They're the cutest little puppy too.
I like the idea of Kinsey McKenzie Hansen. Like let's like really
hyphenate it,
really get crazy with it.
Like Caleb King Kelly.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Exactly.
Anyway, I feel like I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I've been listening to you two next to me, Eddie and George. I've been listening, producing, the recruiting report, which I think was the best show of the week so far. The numbers say it on YouTube. But Dari was really good yesterday.
It was awesome.
It's kind of one of those things, like, I am in Dari's position now. Like, people, I got some things to say, and I'm going to say, like, I've been hearing everybody else talk about this and what's going on, and now it's my time. I will tell you this, Josh, this isn't scary for you because it's not going to hurt your pocket, but yesterday, little anecdotal story before we get really into the football stuff. I think there are a few moments in my life where I remember them vividly, like when Bob Stoops told me he was retiring, and I remember where I was, and I remember turning white and going and grabbing Curtis Fitzpatrick out of the studio and saying, we have to talk about something, and then we kicked Phil and Zinga out because we couldn't trust him, and like I vividly remember that day. I always remember it. Yesterday, the phone rang, and it was in the control room. And I usually don't answer my phone, but I saw it was like an Oklahoma City number. And it didn't look like spam, so I picked it up. And, Josh, you haven't heard this story yet, but after 4 years, and we've been talking about this on the Crimson Corner, after 4 years of being on a wait list for a Rolex Daytona, I got the call yesterday that my name had come up and that mine had come in. And here's the crazy. George freaks out about this because he doesn't understand like the real luxury watch game, how it works. So the thing about the date,
I freak out about the price of the watch.
The thing about the thing about a Rolex Daytona, it's one of the top 5 hottest watches in existence. Like there's like the Patek Philippe Nautilus is probably at the top because you pay like $60,000 for it. It sells for like $250,000. Like, I haven't really kept up with it, so I don't know. But, like, this watch, the Rolex Daytona, as soon as you walk out of the store, it's worth double the price. I mean, it goes from what it goes from. I don't even want to say. I can't even say how much it costs. I've never spent this much.
I'm looking at the numbers, and it's terrifying.
Those are the pre-owned numbers. Those are the gray market numbers. It's $15,000 if you get it brand new.
Oh.
So the numbers you're looking at,
it doesn't compute for me.
I've never bought anything this expensive. Never. I mean, a car and a house, but that's, you pay those out, and you pay it over 15 years or whatever, 5 years. Never one time have I just plopped down this much money for something. But Josh, I have to buy this. You're looking at the numbers of what it's worth out there in the real world.
You don't have to buy it.
I have to buy this. Anyone that is presented with
I'm
this,
excited for you because I know how exciting this is for you.
That's the only reason
you
to
are
be
a
excited.
watch guy.
But no, any watch guy that can tell you that they got a call from an authorized dealer and was offered this watch at retail price, you have to buy it.
But what does it matter to you that it's valued like that? Because you're never going to sell it. You'll die in that watch. You'll probably get buried in it.
I don't know that I will even ever wear this watch because I am freaked out enough to wear a Tudor or an Omega out in public.
Josh,
it scares me.
I would just say don't put George and I in charge of the burying process because even if he wanted to get buried in it, it would not be buried under the 9 feet under the ground.
You would go get a $150 Chinese version that looked exactly like it.
I don't even know about that. We would just because that would take out of the overall profit that could be made in the resell.
So you just wait till everyone leaves. Are you digging me up or are you?
Oh no,
getting
it would
there
never.
before
It would never go down.
You're hiding
9 feet
out
into the ground.
You're hiding out behind the trees. What if I'm cremated? Then you're screwed.
Well, that's perfect. I think that you should. I know Catholics shouldn't be, but that would actually be perfect. Get cremated, and then that way it doesn't have to go down under.
Anyway, lo and behold, that's my story. I'm moving around funds to make this possible. So, yeah, I have to do it.
All I can think is this is what life is like without children.
Yes.
You can just go spend this shit on a watch.
Yes.
I have no frame of reference for this.
And I could immediately, even though I'm probably going to put it in a safe deposit box and never wear it, it'll be worth more than what I pay. It's the one thing that you can buy that's going to be worth more than you'll pay for it for the rest of the time. Because the supply and demand is so far apart. There's so much more demand than there's supply.
Eddie, George, what's the thing you would buy? The thing that that you would spend more money than the average person would just because you love it enough. Is there something out there that if money was no object?
Outside of joining Oklahoma City Golf Country Club, I don't think that there is something out there for me.
I guess you're not a house or a car doesn't count in this scenario.
No.
Yeah, I like something. Yeah, something.
I mean, it could be extravagant.
If you had fuck you money, what would you go buy?
Yeah,
Man,
a boat.
I have to think about that.
Maybe if I had that type of money, Josh, I think that and I'm not even a lake guy, but just a lake house, or something along those lines.
Lake house would be up there.
I might be a mountain guy. I would maybe go Colorado or something
a condo,
like that. Yeah, or a house,
at
a house in Colorado, or wherever, Aspen.
Does a jet count since we'd use it for work?
I don't know. I don't know if I'd ever want to own something like that. I mean, I guess if you have that
that's
money,
a lot of upkeep.
Yeah.
Did you ask about the Honda jet yet?
These are still things that don't count. A house or even a house in Vail or Lake House or whatever doesn't count for this situation. I'm trying to think of something.
I'd buy a cabin in Hochatown.
I would definitely outfit a house, even if it was in Oklahoma City. If I had that type of money to make the ultimate man cave, get one of those. I've always wanted one of the, and I guess they're obsolete now, but a ticker that has the scores underneath that could just flash in front of my TV.
So yeah, I would definitely do a big TV. I would do a lot of Lululemon pants. I would just buy enough to last me for
10 pairs at a time.
10 pairs of Lululemon pants.
I mean, now you're talking that.
Dream
that
big,
actually,
won't you? Wow,
10 pairs of Lululemon pants actually might be just as much as the watch that Carrie's about to buy.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's the George's answer I've ever heard. That's beautiful, George. Well done.
I love shoes too. I would probably go buy some really nice shoes.
The world isn't big enough for young George yet. If that's the best that you can come
Well,
up
I
with.
just don't. I don't care about buying a $15,000 watch. That's just not my thing. I do want a nice watch. I think it would be nice to have a really nice watch, but I don't think I'd ever spend $15,000 on a watch. But if it's what I don't know enough about it to sit here and say, oh, that's a really smart investment. It sounds like it's a really smart investment if you're going to turn around and sell it, or if it's really worth double the price. I don't know that much about it though.
To ask a very Eddie question, Josh, if you had married Casey Anthony, what would you do as a single man?
Well, you would still be married to her. I think that was the problem. She didn't have a man in her life. That's why she took it on baby Kaylee.
And let's be fair, we haven't reached the finish line. Tiffany, I mean, count on nothing. That woman knows a lot of medical, but dangerous medical.
She's going to kill you, not the children.
Yes, that's all. I've told her. I'm like, look, if you ever hit that breaking point, take me. Leave the girls. I'll be the one. But like, leave them alone. Like, let's let them go, and they can live with your parents someday or something. But that's not. I'm that selfless. I guess that I don't want my children killed.
The good news is if you're an OU fan and you're married to an OU fan and they didn't do it on Saturday night, like surely over the next 2 weeks you're good,
for
right?
That segue to getting us back on track.
Is that the low point? Like, would you guys say Saturday night was the lowest it's been?
Actually, I don't. No. I mean, it sucked.
I thought it was South Carolina.
I thought going down 7-0 to Maine was the low point of the season.
Oh no,
it's like 1A, 1B, 1C. First quarter against South Carolina, going 7-0 against Maine, or just the last.
But it has to be
even
chronological order.
Texas is in
rock bottom. Comes at the end.
I don't know. I kind of kept just waiting for the bottom to fall out against Texas.
Yeah, but it's still against Texas, against your rival, to get embarrassed on national TV like that against your rival is just. Yeah. And it was like, but it was the way that it felt too. Is like they never even had a chance. But I thought Missouri.
Texas game?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that everybody's mind was kind of racing when you're leading 7-3 and the defense was looking pretty good.
Here's why Missouri was rock bottom. Because for a moment in time, you're like, okay, they're going to win this game. The season is not, I wouldn't say saved, but they found a way to get to 6 wins. And you can live with that a little bit going into the offseason. You can buy into some hope. You can have at least a little ounce of optimism. And then the way they lost it, in the fashion that they lost it, is just... Like it's still shocking to me.
It can't be said enough. They not only, like, with 6 minutes left, if you would have said, "Hey, OU's not only going to be leading this game by 7 with 2:01 left, they're going to lose the game by 7, and oh, by the way, it's not going to be in overtime. It's going to be in regulation." Like, that's stunning still, even to think back to it. I think like Saturday night when we did the instant reaction and even the postgame podcast. And even when we like drove home on Sunday, it hadn't set in until I rewatched Monday afternoon or Monday evening, and it was like, oh, that really did happen, and it was as bad like with the rewatch as it was being there live.
I wanted to get in on exactly what George was doing yesterday at the Board of Regents meetings because obviously the administration at OU has a certain vision that not all fans share. With the future of OU football and Brent Venables, but you know who else has vision that's pretty good is Eddie Radosevich, and it's the holiday season coming up, Eddie.
It is the holiday season, and it's upon us. So are the savings at Enjoy Vision. Save $600 on LASIK at Enjoy Vision during the holidays of LASIK. I had the LASIK procedure just about 2 years ago, and haven't had any problems since. It's nice to wake up without having to mess with contacts, all that kind of stuff, and obviously being able to lay down and see without glasses or contacts. So all you got to do is go to schedule your free consultation at enjoyvision.com. That is the letter NJOY vision.com. Save $600 off LASIK. Consider this a gift from me to you here during the holiday season. I won't come and break all your Christmas lights, I promise. I've grown past that. But looking to get back into the game this season. Happy Merry savings from me and Enjoy Vision. $600 off, free consultation. Just go do it, you idiots. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to Enjoy Vision. And George, you sat around a lot longer than you wanted to yesterday.
3 hours.
While you were waiting for the Board of Regents meeting
How's
to
everything
finish.
at Cameron University right now?
Not good.
Oh, no, really?
Not good, no.
I made the dean's list at Cameron.
Maybe instead of buying a watch, you should invest back into your university.
Yeah, what the hell?
I guarantee you Cameron could probably make $15,000 go a long way.
It sounds
definitely after yesterday.
I don't know. I wonder if they still even play. They still have the stadium. Do they play high school games there still?
Yeah, Lawton does.
All the schools play there?
I'm pretty sure they do. Yeah. Lawton, I can.
We thought, didn't we think at the beginning of the season Lawton Mac was going to be really good?
Yeah, they're in the playoffs. I mean, they are not the team that I thought they were after seeing them in the scrimmage at Carl Albert this year. But yeah.
So anyway, George, statements, votes of confidence, if you will. I mean, nobody says, here's my vote of confidence. That's just what people kind of term it when people come out in support of coaches that are embattled with the public.
Yeah, tough day, too, for the crowd that says the local media doesn't ask tough questions, because we kind of hammered Joe C. and Joe Harroz, because this Regents meeting only had one athletics agenda item on there, and it was basically they're getting a new air conditioning unit for the Everest Center, which is needed, by the way. But, yeah, I mean, we asked Joe Castiglione, Joe Harroz. I know a couple other people talked to some of the regents, but I think the word that Harroz used was unwavering confidence in Brent. I think he said he's our coach now and in the future. Joe C. basically said the same thing in terms of we fully support Brent, and they're looking at how they can not only help him the rest of this season, but in preparation for next year. So that basically tells you he's going to be here, barring something crazy. He's going to be here next year. And so, and I think we all expected that.
I'm glad it happened. Not because of it's good for Brent, he's going to be here. None of that stuff. I think something needed to be said just so the fan base has a chance to wrap their head around where this thing is. Like, They know now they're not going to fire Brent as things stand today. Like, it's I don't know why everyone needs that assurance. I mean, I know why, because they won't listen to us all the time. You want to hear the things that you want to hear, and what a lot of, not everybody, but a lot of people wanted to hear, we're moving on from Brent Venables. We're going in a different direction. We've talked about all the reasons how that could be a good thing or a bad thing for the program long term.
I can see both sides of it. It really is a tough decision, I feel like.
I agree. I keep going back and forth every day. After the game on Saturday, obviously we talked about it, but I was on the side
of
a
sense of hopelessness
moving on.
Because I think that, like, when you lose in that way, in the fashion that they did, and it just seems like there's not a whole lot of avenues like, okay, you can bank on this and you feel like you're getting better. And I think, like, the biggest gut punch, to me at least, has been just the reality that they have to go get a quarterback. I know this is kind of sidetracking everything, but it's just, I don't know. I think feels like there's a lot of hopelessness on the offensive side of the ball, but then you take a step back and you do feel good about the defense. You do feel good about special teams outside of the punt return stuff. Like, there's a lot of aspects that you can that they have built off of what they did in the second year. It's just the drastic terribleness of what they put together offensively.
And I think part of the big holdup in terms of firing Brent, everybody's talking about the buyout number, $44.8 million. And Joe Harroz was asked about that directly by Barry Trammell yesterday, and he basically explained that they still have to consider all the aspects that go into a university. It's not just about athletics, but did bring up the point that the athletic department is self-sustaining, that they do make their own money. And that indicates to me that if they really wanted to do it, I do think they could do it. The problem that you start adding up the numbers, and it's not just the $45 million that it takes to fire Brent.
This is a part that I don't think a whole lot of people, and myself included, think about. And you kind of outlaid it yesterday in the show we did with Dari.
Yeah, you're firing the rest of the because, like, if they were to move on from Brent, no one is staying on staff. I know there's this weird narrative that they could convince Zach Alley to stay as a defensive coordinator. That's not happening. Todd Bates isn't.
You don't
Todd
think
Bates
Brent
isn't staying?
Would take the demotion and just stay on as defensive coordinator?
Can we please stop that? I mean, please stop. If you're typing that and your fingers are putting those words out there, like, could we fire Brent and just rehire him as defensive coordinator? Or could we fire Brent and keep Zach Alley? Neither one of those things are happening.
Right.
You're not keeping Todd Bates and you're not keeping Brandon Hall. It's like, it's crazy.
Here's the numbers that anybody wants to, like, it's the $45 million to get rid of Brent. The staff pool right now is around $16 million. That's just for the full-time assistants.
And a lot of those guys have multi-year contracts.
Correct. So you're buying out them. So you add that up. What is that? Over $60 million. Plus you're talking about the analysts, the training staff. Like, I'm assuming that they would, all this turnover, right? The administrators that are just football specific, recruiting, all of that stuff. You're looking at like a $70-80 million endeavor, letting go of all these people, and then you're tasked with going out and hiring who you want to be the perfect coach. And if you want to go hire the best coach possible, you're going to have to pay him about what you're paying Brent, which is $8.5 million a year, which is
10th in the
10th
SEC.
in the SEC. And then you've got to go out, hire a whole nother staff, and then you have to build a roster, which the other narrative that I think is crazy out there was OU behind in the NIL game a bit. Sure, you can make that debate, and I will listen to it, and you're probably right in a lot of aspects. But they have spent money this last year on its football roster, close to probably around $14 million on its football roster. You're going to have to do that again next year if you want to be competitive at all. So you're looking at almost $100 million situation here if you let go of Brent Venables.
And look, you're also, what you're doing is you're straining a donor base that isn't Texas, that isn't whoever you want to name.
Joe Harris said that. He's like, we aren't Texas. We don't just have that kind of money.
Or A&M, or even Missouri. I mean, like, you're asking those guys, and you've seen, I don't know if you know the numbers, George, but you've seen where OU is on NIL payments compared to other schools. And again, they're not at the very top, but they're competitive. And that's where Joe C. likes to be on just about everything. He doesn't want to pay top dollar. He wants to be competitive. So now, are you still competitive when you've paid all this buyout money in the NIL space? And you're going to have to get a lot more players in. And as we've seen with the offensive line, rebuilding a position from the transfer portal doesn't always work so well.
Correct. And the other flip side of this is there is the scenario where the buyout is paid over monthly through 2030. So I think it's around $700,000. Yeah, Brent's buyout, you'd pay $700,000 per month till 2030, which just sounds like crazy. And also, if he gets another job, obviously that number reduces, which I would assume Brent would get another job. But either way, any way you look at it, though, it would be a total rebuild. And maybe that's what Oklahoma needs. I don't know the answer, right? Like I said, I keep going back and forth. Do you want to rebuild the whole thing from scratch, pull the plug now? Or do you feel like you have a better chance at going out and hiring a really good offensive coordinator that can fix a lot of your issues and see if that turns this thing around? I don't know. I don't know if that's the answer. I know, Josh, you've looked into some of the history of national championship coaches and their starts at their careers at different schools and things like that. I know I've looked into, there's only been 4 SEC coaches since 2010 that kept their jobs after having 2 losing seasons in the first 3 years. I think it was Eli Drinkowitz at Missouri. It's going to be Billy Napier at Florida, so that's going to be a 5th one. Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, Derek Mason at Vanderbilt, and missing one other. Who's the other one? Eddie. I read this stat off the other day.
Yeah, it was, Derek Mason.
I said Derek Mason.
You already said Derek Mason? Derek Mason. Say him again then.
Derek Mason, typing. Eli Drinkowitz, Clark Lee, Billy Napier, and there's one more.
God.
Mark Stoops.
Yeah, Mark.
So
that's right.
Which Mark Stoops just like, hey, man, I said this on radio this morning. Like, Mark Pope, just keep beating Duke, and I can keep losing football games and collecting $9 million. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
The Kentucky fans are going to be appetized.
Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
Guys, okay. So my only issue with the arguments, and George, I absolutely hear the point you're making. Is it not going to continue to still be very, very cost prohibitive next year? Well, like if they're back in the same situation, is it not still going to be $70-80 million?
It'll be a little less
to do what you're talking about.
It'll be a little less. Brent's buyout
because you paid a year of Brent. Sure. Yeah,
Brent's buyout goes down by $10 million. I would assume a lot of the assistants aren't going to get raises, and would assume they're not also going to get extensions either.
Yeah.
So I think their buyouts would all go down as well.
Well, that doesn't come till after the season anyway for the assistants.
Right, but at the same time, Josh, I think they're going to go out, and if they hire an offensive coordinator, it's going to be expensive, and you're going to have to pay his buyout if you fire the whole staff next year. So I don't know. I mean, it's a valid point.
I think giving, and look, here's the other problem. By the way, Josh, we can tell you've given up on Brent Venables. It's obvious. I mean, the firing's happening either this year or next year, according to Josh McQuistion. Way to go, Barry Trammell.
Would it be?
Well, real quick. So the thing that I think of is like the offensive coordinator. Everybody's saying yes, it's going to be very difficult to attract a high-profile offensive coordinator with Brent being on the hot seat. So you're going to have to give someone a 3-year contract, probably $2 million a year, to attract a really good candidate.
Yeah. I mean,
and that doesn't even address what's going to happen to the quarterback room. You blow that up, or you bring, is the coordinator with a transfer? I'm sure the coordinator, when they get through the interviewing process, and that's the other thing, Josh, like the timing of it. I mean, we could talk about this too. You have signing day, but you have the transfer portal opening in 3 weeks? Less than almost 3 weeks away now?
Yeah, December 9.
So
Monday after championship
do you
weekend.
have to have an idea of who your OC is just so he can at least talk to your quarterbacks and decide?
Doesn't it feel like,
I want this guy
we've
or not?
identified there's like 4 guys. And I like, as of right now, I feel like it's going to be one of the 4 guys. Dan Mullen, and then the 3 options that all could bring quarterbacks with them, which is, somebody posted it on the board, and I kind of agree with him. It's kind of disgusting that college football is at this point, but it is what it is. Ben Arbuckle and Mateer, Spavital and Sawyer Robertson, and then Craddock and Darian Mensah. Like, that's the 4 right now.
I would add Mike Shanahan to that.
Yeah, and Mike Shanahan. Yeah,
from Indiana.
5. So there's 5 offense coordinators. As of right now, I feel like the next offense coordinator is one of those 5. And 3 of them bring a quarterback. I don't know what I don't think the situation would be the same at Indiana with O'Rourke. And then obviously Dan Mullen, one of the best probably offensive play callers in the country that's jobless right now. And if that's the guy that you want to go get, I know we were talking about it before we started, hire him like yesterday. All he's doing is calling games right now. He could start.
I declared myself the winner. I said go hire Dana Holgerson, and that's exactly what Matt Rule did. He hired him. A week later, he was the play caller. Like, I'm not saying Brent should do that because there's only 2 games left, but yeah, it shouldn't be that hard to hire somebody unless you know it's Craddock. I mean, which they're going to be,
which is an intriguing, like, it just because of the college football playoff, and they bump up to 24 this week in the college football rankings.
They've got a chance for a real postseason.
They could make it as the G5 candidate, which would, I don't know. It's like,
it's crazy that.
Do you hire him and then have to wait? Because
are you hiring availability or are you hiring the best possible coach?
Right. I think they have to.
Or is it the combination of both?
You have to do a combination of both.
I don't think Tulane's going to get into the playoff.
Okay.
But
they've got to go to Navy this week, and then they've got a week off, and they've got Memphis at home to close. I mean, they've got hurdles in front of them.
By the way, Josh, you had Thanksgiving at the school today?
Yeah. And the joy of it is the girls are so far apart in age. I have to go in at like 11 and then kill like an hour and a half and then come back and do Laney's because the first graders eat early, the 5th graders eat late, and so it just ends up being I have to basically float for 2 hours waiting to go have a Thanksgiving lunch that my children don't eat.
Is it good?
I'm like, no, it doesn't look good at all. Like I don't eat any of it.
Did you ever eat the Putnam City Thanksgiving meal? I thought it grew on me, but as I got older, I thought it's like one of my favorite.
Started to miss it.
It's one of my favorite disgusting meals of the year.
Was it like? Did they have like yams and stuff? And
I never had yams, but it was like the presentation probably not the best. You wouldn't put it on a poster, but it's pretty good.
I don't really remember, like after probably middle school, I don't remember eating like lunch. Like I remember, like we had like Chick-fil-A, and I would have like a Chick-fil-A sandwich most of the day. That's what I can remember eating most of the time, but I don't really remember.
Well, the reason I
definitely don't remember the school lunch.
The reason I was asking is, I mean, what you need to do is call Schwab Meat. They're the official champion of the holidays. They're making Friendsgiving more fun with another NIL partnership for the holiday season that stars Billy Bowman, Jada Coleman, Kobe McKenzie, and Kinsey Hansen, who we've established could be Kinsey McKenzie one of these days. They're taking competitiveness to a new level at the Friendsgiving table, playing the MIL game, Meet, Image, and likeness.
Let's listen in on Friendsgiving dinner. They're playing the Schwab MIL game.
Meet, image, likeness. Kinsey, go.
Billy Bowman, ham, Billy Bo Ham Man.
Kobe McKenzie, turkey, Kobe Turk McKenzie.
Jenna Coleman, ham. Jenna Cole Hamman.
Kinsey Hansen, Turk Inzi Hammondson. Turk Inzi Hammondson, 2 meats.
Turkey Hammondson, MVP of the meal.
Schwab Meats, turkeys and champions of the holidays.
So Schwab Meat, they've been smoking the highest quality turkeys and hams for your special holiday meals since 1912. Make your Thanksgiving meals easy this year by ordering your holiday turkeys and hams online at schwabmeat.com. You can pick up your order at Schwab's. You can just go pick it up downtown Oklahoma City, or you can ship it straight to your home with free shipping on online orders over $75 with the code SoonerScoop. So there you have it, folks. Sooner Scoop is going to get you free shipping for your holiday feast if you go through schwabmeat.com and place that order for your high quality turkeys and hams. So thanks to Schwab Meat Company. They'll be here with this podcast all throughout the new year. Okay, George is stripping down. This is not on YouTube, George. This is not on video. I'm sorry.
It's just taking my jacket off.
You're going to get Pearl all excited. Pearl was in the office yesterday. She was missing
Prisbillo,
George.
big fan of George Stoya.
We think that Pearl Prisbillo might actually be in love with George.
Shout out Pearl.
We might need to keep George away from your daughters, Josh.
Yeah. Well, I would be okay with George. George seems like an upstanding young guy. Eddie's not allowed within at least 300 feet of the compound.
He's great with children.
So
you should see.
I'm not saying he's not. That's the concern. The lessons he'll teach them as they begin to trust him are concerning.
It's called life lessons.
See, Josh's kids loved me because I always bring them stuff when I come see them.
They do. They remember the. I want to say they might still have one of the Quick Trip goodies bags from a while back.
Give a shout out to our guy Joe from Quick Trip. He loads us up with swag when he knows I'm getting ready to go see him.
Better than swag.
Swag and swag.
But not as good as Schwab.
That's right, Josh. Swag is like really shitty weed.
Oh, okay.
Used to buy in Homeland
the things that
lots.
we learn from
I told
Eddie
you it's a learning lesson. It's anytime I open my mouth.
I didn't even know that.
Wait, you went to a private school.
What are you admitting to? Okay, so anyway, I don't know, where do we want to go with this? I mean, I feel like I don't want to get into telling fans how to feel. You're going to feel how you feel. I think we all agree with that.
Yeah, this is like kind of one of those moments where it's like, I don't think that anybody's wrong. You can feel how you want to feel about Brent, and I know that we're all probably, whether you think he's going to be fired or think he should be fired, or even open to the conversation now, where I think like me and George are at coming out of Saturday, where it's like, yeah, I mean, there's serious uncomfortable conversations that are having to be had because of the direction. But like, it is one of those things. Offensively, it's so bad, and I don't think that we need to rehash a whole lot from Missouri. But
it is mind blowing that, and I saw people kind of lamenting about this on the boards. Like, you spend 10 years trying to find a defense, and you finally have something that's respectable.
Yeah,
and the offense could not have gone further to shit.
Well, I like the big takeaway outside of like the obvious stuff with Brent and the program and the direction of everything. I think I walked out of Columbia finally with my hand raised saying they got a problem at quarterback with Jackson. Like and whether it's right or wrong and whether he's been developed poorly or not, which, I think is a conversation to be had. The ball security stuff, when he turns the ball over, it's not just hey, you got to dig out of this hole now. It's you just lost the game.
You know what I keep thinking about is it might have been back in August, but we were interviewing Jackson, and at the end it was kind of winding down, and he was talking about the training and stuff, and he kind of like lodged a complaint about like, I wish we kind of had the VR stuff. Like,
yeah, I don't think a VR is going to help you just not.
But no, what
hold on
kick the ball. What I think about is like, that was almost like him saying, I'm not comfortable with everything. I wish I had more things to get more comfortable with what we're doing.
Here's the question. Is Jackson Arnold a good quarterback, just a competent quarterback's coach away from opening?
I don't know. That's the question.
Because from what we saw Saturday night, what we saw in the Tennessee game, like, it's one thing to go out and do it against Maine, and I think that we all felt like, okay, they took a step. He wasn't like exceptional, but you didn't turn the ball over. You ran the offense. You did some things. I know that they're certainly stressed in some parts offensively, but like, he's gotten into big games now and
crap down
his
leg.
Looked like shit.
Yeah.
The thing that's concerning is, like, the interceptions you can get over, because I do think a good quarterback's coach or offensive coordinator, you can help him see the field better. You can open up some things where he's getting easier passes, and I think we all agree that they have done a really, really poor job with both quarterbacks, giving them easy things to do. The thing that's concerning about Jackson is the fumbles. That's not something that a quarterback's coach or an offensive coordinator can come in and just like fix you from just holding on to the ball.
So many.
I mean, they lead the country in fumbles this year.
But just him, I mean,
easy
grazing it against his leg like he did in the final.
The first fumble, like, I've gone back and probably watched it 100 times. I just don't know how that happens. Like, the ball just goes off of his right leg.
It's the same.
He just brings it down.
Eddie, it's the same as the one that was scooped and scored. I mean,
is that what happened? Because I was too far. Like, I know you can tell on the other side.
It's
but
very
like,
clear.
But the fourth quarter, or the game decider fumble, it's also one of those moments. There was a shot that Andrew Carter, really good guy, knew him. He worked in Tulsa. He runs a big video company now, like production company up out of Kansas City. He's a Missouri grad. Saw him at the game on Saturday. The only time I saw him was when OU took the lead with 2 minutes left, and he wanted to KMS. But he had time from his angle of his camera, of Andrew Carter's company's camera. Like, Jackson is definitely bailing out of the pocket when he doesn't need to be, and a lot of that has to do with what we talked about.
Yeah, like,
comfort.
we were sitting there watching your footage.
It's crazy.
And the tackles are, rushing upfield and going behind him. All he has to do is step up in the pocket, because he had a pocket in front of him, keep his eyes down the field and look for an open receiver or look for a guy coming open, and he gives up on the play way too early.
So what do you guys do the rest of the year? These last 2 games? I know a lot of people are like, who cares? It doesn't matter.
I'm almost in the Casey Thompson camp. I mean, I'm almost like, what could it hurt? I mean,
it could hurt, though.
Yeah,
I think
know,
that, like, the way, like, say what hypothetically, if Casey went out and they were able to move the ball and he sees the field a little bit better than these other 2 guys, then I think, like, it almost backfires on Brent, and maybe you do have to fire him.
Then you look more like John Blake. Even though, let me say this, this is one thing I want to get off my chest. John Blake was a position coach. That was the highest level of coaching that he ever achieved before he was given the head coaching job at Oklahoma. Don't start this crap about Brent is worse than John Blake. John Blake, this is coming from people that weren't old enough to actually understand what they were watching when John Blake was the coach at OU. That was a joke of a football program.
Oh, the program's much
Brent Venables came here as one of the most highly coveted defensive coordinators in the country, with 2 national championships under his belt as a coordinator. I don't want to hear this shit about it's worse than John Blake or this is the Blake years relived. It's not. I lived through the John Blake years. I was sitting up in those stands watching Corey Callens getting basically, put in an ambulance when Texas A&M was kicking their heads in the freezing cold. Like, that was a shit show. That was terrible. It was embarrassing. This is not good, but it is not that, and not even close.
It's closer to the Gary Gibbs era.
I think that's what I've said for a while. Josh, I know you had something you wanted to say there.
The program's in a better spot. I could listen to the argument that Brent Venables, as a head coach, is comparable to John Blake. Josh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, John, and I was young, but I was old enough to know I was, mid-teens. John Blake was incompetent. Like, John Blake was not capable of being a head coach. You can argue that Brent Venables is not a good head coach, and I think I would say of the 4 of us, I'm probably at the lowest point as far as, where we see this thing. but Brent Venables can coach. Like Brent Venables could get fired tomorrow and people would be lining up to make him their defensive coordinator.
Sure.
Nobody was running to make John Blake any high profile hire. Like he was bad. It was obvious he was bad. And he was hired beyond a point he was capable.
Yeah. And that was what was said throughout the time. I mean, Barry Switzer did what Barry Switzer does, and he backed his former player for the job. But, everybody said after it was over, it wasn't fair to put John Blake in that position, and it wasn't. And it showed.
He's the Bauer Sharp. They keep putting Bauer Sharp in situations he cannot handle.
No.
John Blake was put in a situation he was not prepared to handle.
It's a good comparison, but harsh.
Bauer Sharp is a better tight end than John Blake was a head coach. Let's be clear about that.
I'm kind of on board with seeing what Michael Hawkins can do these last 2 games, because I'm not saying you don't play Jackson at all. Maybe you play both of them, but I still feel like, and I know last time we saw Michael Hawkins, it was horrifically bad, but I still feel like his sample size, like at least see what you have in him a little bit more and give him a few series at least, because while I don't think either one of them is probably your starter next year, you still want to see at least what you got. That's why I'm not on the Casey Thompson thing, because it's just like, what good does
makes
that
it look
do?
like a circus.
Yes, like just play the other 2 guys, see if they can't show you
both.
something.
Play them both in the same game.
I was thinking the same thing.
That's where I'm
Steve
at.
Spurrier him. I mean, just shuffle one in
I
and
agree.
out.
Yep.
I mean,
I agree.
we talk about you have nothing to lose. You legitimately have nothing to lose. There's nobody.
Treat it like
disrespecting
running
you.
backs. Somebody gets hot, starts moving the ball, leave them out there. Fine, I don't care about that. But what are you going to do? I mean, like, what's the greatest risk? You're going to lose one of these guys? Okay. Like, I mean, I was a huge buyer in Jackson Arnold. I think Michael Hawkins has a ton of potential if he could be given the time to grow into a guy. But neither one of these guys has done anything to make you think, can't afford to lose that guy. We just won't be the same going forward. Like, maybe you won't be. Maybe you'll pay for it. But there's nothing to indicate that to this point.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear. This staff knows, Brent Venables knows, he has to go out and get a quarterback in this portal, and it has to be one that is pretty proven. Like, you can't go out and get somebody that is not proven.
He needs another Dylan Gabriel.
Jump here.
Sorry, Robertson.
Diego
there
Pavia
are
is in the
options.
NCAA.
Yeah,
He
I
wants
guess-
another year.
I guess that's the good thing. There are going to be options, and even guys that we probably don't even or couldn't even project right now.
Well, you know what we haven't said is, OU, if they did go out, let's just, it's a placeholder name. If they did go out and get a Dan Mullen, there's no reason that Mensah couldn't transfer from Tulane without Craddock.
Correct, and that's why. And everybody just assumes too that
everybody's going to come together.
Yeah,
like, it's a combo deal.
if OU hires Craddock,
Yeah, it doesn't
Mensah's
have to be
gonna
a
come.
package deal.
I'm telling you, Ole Miss is going to be in the market, and they're going to be able to get probably somebody really good.
Did you see their backup come in for Dart though? He was pretty freaking good.
It's real.
I've heard Ole Miss is in the market.
I think they just
to
have
the point. Craddock didn't recruit Mensah. Like, that's not like some long-standing
nobody
relationship.
did.
They've been together for this year.
Yeah. By the way, I think Ole Miss just have they're like, at this point they have a shopping addiction. Even if they don't need something, they want it.
Yeah.
Missouri's probably the same way.
It's kind of like at the beginning of the program. Like, they have that FU money. They're just going out to buy toys.
Why don't they have a better stadium then?
It's a great question. I don't know.
I mean, by the way, if you want to see how what a shit show looks like on offense, go YouTube Jesse Palmer, Doug Johnson, and Rex Grossman. That's when Spurrier was literally, I think not even between series, I think during series he would sometimes shuffle quarterbacks.
Such a badass.
It was insanity.
Well, and he still was winning 10 games with that fucking circus.
Well, and look, I think there's going to be some hard questions asked by this staff about if they even want to keep this quarterback room together. But like we said before, it's going to take the new offensive coordinator to make that decision. and you got to let him make that decision. I would assume a lot of offensive coordinators, it's kind of like, what do they say, women try and fix men all the time, like you take in the bad boys. I bet every OC out there is like, well, I think I could fix Jackson Arnold. That would be my concern.
Yeah,
because all those guys watched him and thought, man, we'd love to have this guy 2 years ago.
Eddie, you brought this up.
And you got to think there's some shell.
You brought this up the other day, and Josh had mentioned Geyer guys, but like, has that been a negative? Like that he played his entire high school career with the best of the best that were just plain out better than most teams that they played.
Josh, I just keep going back to the times that we would meet in Denton to go watch Geyer play, and I think every time we watched him, he dominated. He looked like a guy that was in complete control of that offense, complete control of what they were doing. And like I just asked Kerry and George, it's like, what did we miss? What did we miss with Jackson? Was he surrounded by superior talent that made it look? Were there things covered up that we didn't see?
Well, guys, the craziest thing, and I'll break down a game for the idiot, or I'll break down a play for the idiot, and then I'll kind of go through it, and then I'm like, wait, he just mid-thread that RPO. He was just wrong from the start. He should have gave when he kept, or vice versa. Guys, that RPO stuff is all he did in high school. Like he ran a very similar offense, particularly his senior year, to everything he's done at Oklahoma. So I don't understand where this disconnect has happened, where he doesn't seem to know what he's reading and what he's looking at. Like, I don't know.
I mean, how that happened. Is it just straight up that the offensive line has been so bad that, and I think we all saw it with Sam when he got to the NFL, that he got to a point where he's like, I'm catching the ball and I got to get out of here.
But
and
here's the thing. Here's the thing too. And Seth has been fired, and we don't know how much has been put in or taken out since then to try and simplify things. But guys, you go back to the Texas game, and I was told that Michael Hawkins was doing the same stuff. He busted on like 8 of the first 15 plays in that game.
This is my thing. Like I keep running through my head. If Jeff Lebby doesn't take the Mississippi State job, how much better is Jackson Arnold this year?
It's a great question.
I mean, he scored a lot of points at Mississippi State.
Look what he's doing with the true freshman out there. That kid looks like he's going to be a player. We watched him camp at OU that first summer that Brent was hired. Like, that Van Buren kid can play. It's starting. I mean, like, he looked pretty human against Tennessee, but he's had some really nice games.
Does a coach, though, like, just simply telling him, like, hey, you need to keep the ball there, like, isn't that a bigger problem than what it is on the surface? Like, does Jackson need to be told how to read something or how to count how many guys are in the box? He shouldn't.
It feels like it, because Eddie, we watched him run a speed option, and it was like he didn't know the concept of, okay, I've got to close this ground, and once I force this guy to. I mean, Eddie, like, you grew up playing league basketball. That's a 2-on-1 break.
Yeah,
make him commit to me, and then I'm giving the ball away. Like, and I was a horseshit basketball player, so this is not like some level of expertise. That's basic rudimentary athletics.
Kids over at Whittier,
again, like, I just don't know where his head is.
Yeah,
Jackson is a good football player. He's a smart kid. His head is just somewhere. Like, and I thought against Ole Miss and Maine, I thought, okay, maybe he let it all go. He got let go of all that pressure. He got benched. He's just saying, F it, I'm going to do whatever. And then against Missouri, like, almost from word go, you're like, he looks antsy again, like, just immediately.
Well, and why is it that, like, both quarterbacks, I mean, last time we saw Michael Hawkins start, he was antsy. Like, I mean, obviously, he was the same thing. I mean, it was all the same stuff. You've seen it from both quarterbacks. Like, it does make you question, like, like Brent Venables will talk about the fundamentals of guys on defense and just kind of what, the little things you do even before the ball is snapped. It's pretty clear the quarterbacks don't have anybody that just work the fundamentals with them on a regular basis.
I agree, and that's a huge part of it. I also think Eddie's point's valid, where I think that there's very little trust with the offensive line, because even when they're playing well, these guys are bailing like after a second or two, and I think it's just become a habit because they just have zero trust that they're going to be protected.
Tired of getting the shit kicked out of them.
It even goes back to, like, what we talked about on the Game Day Rewind with Josh. Like, I know that the offensive line, it's not great, but when you put it into the grand scheme of things with what we've seen throughout the year, that was about as well as they played it, given the competition.
You take the running backs out of it, I thought they were the best group on OU's offense on Saturday night. And I know that's not a high bar because no one played well, but the offensive line wasn't the reason they didn't win that game.
Yeah, it was just terrible mistakes. I mean,
yep,
just terrible mistakes. And again, defense needed to get a stop, but I can't kill the defense. I mean, Missouri had 88 yards at halftime.
They were the reason they were in that position because of
like
the
I said,
score.
If the offense was worth a shit at all, they would have been so far ahead that last drive wouldn't have mattered.
Yep.
And they would have been 3 scores down instead of a score down, they would have been desperately throwing the ball, and OU would have been playing a lot different coverages in the secondary.
Sure, you can't give up the 3rd and 16 though. You just can't do it. You can't do that. And I thought even the first throw to Theo Weiss to get that drive started, 28 yards. I know it's meaningless in the grand scheme of things, but it's not at the same time. That got that going. That gave Drew Pine a little bit of hope. And you just can't do that. Bad teams find ways to lose, and that's what we've seen.
I would love to know what happened on that play, Eddie, because I looked at it for the idiot. Jacoby Johnson doesn't look like a guy that thinks he's misaligned or thinks he made a mistake. He treated that like he was releasing Theo Weiss into someone else. There should have been someone there in coverage. I mean, I know we'll never know the answer, but because you guys know, you'll watch it and you're like, oh, he grabbed his head, or he, kind of an oh shit moment. He realized he messed something up. I couldn't tell where it went wrong, but Jacoby Johnson did not play that like a guy that thought he was. He played that like he thought he had help inside.
Yeah.
And then he just fell. That's the cruelest. That's probably the cruelest play of the season.
I've watched it a couple times.
I think he picks that ball.
I was gonna say that was my question. You think he gets there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Are you doing something?
You can see. Oh, go ahead.
Are you doing something else, or did you just pull up footage to look at while we talk about it? Are you? I'm
just looking at some plays.
You're just Eddie has his laptop out, and he's just punishing himself by watching.
Well, I'm
the Missouri.
I'm cataloging
highlights.
some stuff too.
Okay,
a little multitask.
It's
because for the idiot, I broke down that drive, and if you look at it, when and Jacoby Johnson, it was like a clown car fall. It was not quick. He didn't slowly. I mean, he tried to keep his balance several times, and it took him a while from when he began to slip to when he actually hit the ground. And with his size, his ball skills, I mean, don't get me wrong, Luther Burden's unbelievable. Maybe he makes that play. But to me, bare minimum, Jacoby Johnson knocks that down.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy,
It is
man.
crazy. It is crazy. Sucks.
Well, look, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Alabama and LSU. I would just say it's best not to get your hopes up. I would never say that to people, but I feel like you're only letting yourself down. You're building yourself up just to have another meltdown. Which I don't know how many you can have.
I think it's fair to say that not many people are, but I would say don't boycott the game or do something like that.
Stupid.
I think
that's not helpful.
The big five, Danny, Ethan, Woody, Jalil, think he's coming
Billy.
back, whatever, Billy. They deserve to not show up to a half-empty stadium against Alabama. None of this, to a certain extent, has been their fault.
And look, I think that's a lot of message board just crap that isn't reality.
And I still think there's going to be I think it's going to be a good crowd. It's like we talked about on the Game Day Rewind. I just think there's going to be a lot of people that show up and are more than ready to check out early if things get bad. And boo all you want. To a certain extent, they deserve it. But don't just not show up. I think it's still going to be a good atmosphere. I do believe that.
Yeah, prices on Game Time app, they're still hovering about $160 for the lowest price tickets. So there's a lot of tickets for sale, and they're all about between $160 and $300 or so.
Yeah, I mean maybe you can play spoiler. I don't think they're going to, but Hey,
I think they have a better shot of. I mean, again,
how about
they're not going to win
fans-
either game, but I think they have a better shot.
How about as
LSU.
fans, you just show up to not be embarrassed that Alabama takes over your stadium?
Yeah.
I mean, that's on you if that happens. That makes the fans look bad. That makes the fan base look bad. That's nothing on
OU
the
had to
players.
send out a press release or had to speak to George yesterday. I don't think they're under any illusions about how the fan base feels about the situation at this moment.
No.
Like, you don't have to send a message.
I think that's fair.
Yes, that's very fair. So, Josh, I know we talked a lot on Monday about the recruiting situation. I know George you turned it into a 60-minute segment.
Well, I just, it's one of those things, Josh, where you look. I think everybody wants to say the sky is falling.
I was watching that Nixon movie,
and there it definitely is at OU. This is obviously inexcusable, unprecedented, whatever. This doesn't happen here, but I think everybody just assumes that people would decommit. Are you surprised at all that they have been able? And again, some of it depends on who's going to be on staff and stuff. But are you surprised at all how strong this class has maybe stuck together through this?
I really am, because 2 years ago we kind of went through the same deal with Jackson Arnold and Peyton Bowen and all those guys. And really, I mean, they lost Colton Vosick. They lost a few pieces. The funny part about this is, I don't think there's any question the safest guy on this staff is probably Todd Bates. That defensive tackle room and the way he's rebuilt it is nothing short of stellar. And he's the only guy that's lost any commitments. Like, it's just crazy that that's the way this has played out so far. But I am surprised. Like, you kind of think, especially with the way OU, and they always do, you have to recruit nationally. You have to go outside your borders. You have to go outside even Texas. I mean, you're just not going to win enough battles in Texas to get all the elite talent you need. So to really see these guys kind of holding firm, I think there's a couple things in play there. I think this is part of, what Brent Venables talks about when he talks about, these guys make this decision based on more than just, the end product. There's the soul mission. There's all the other stuff that I know people roll their eyes about, and sometimes I do too. Like, I fully acknowledge that. But you have to say, a lot of other places, that class would be in a lot bigger trouble than it seems to be at Oklahoma right now. You just have to be fair about that. At the same time, I think it lends into what we were talking about earlier with the NIL stuff. Oklahoma couldn't do this if the NIL situation wasn't strong, because a lot of schools would be coming in here, making bigger offers and picking off guys. But to go and outdo what Oklahoma's done with some of these guys and what they've put together is no small thing. I mean, you run down the list of some of these players, and Trent Wilson, frankly, comes to mind for me as a guy that really Oklahoma didn't seem that far, that involved with. He takes a visit, meets with everybody, and then all of a sudden he's committed and has shown no signs of wavering since then. So I think there is several, elements to this and why it's working. But guys, as I look at it, I mean, people ask me, and George, I know you did in the recruiting report. Go watch it if you haven't. And we talked about, like, who would you worry about? I can pick names, but when I talk to people, I don't hear like, oh, this is shaky ground. Like, and you hear that stuff all the time. I don't hear one that is just an overwhelming concern at this moment.
That's crazy. I mean, but, it's not surprising. It shouldn't be to us, Josh. I mean, we know how hard Brent Venables works recruiting and relationships. And, I mean,
the staff's great recruiters.
Yeah.
I mean, we've said it. They're really good recruiters.
And he said it when asked about it in a press conference, like, I don't want kids picking a school because of a coach. I want them picking it for so many other things. And that obviously has resonated with this recruiting class to this point.
It's a top 12-ish type group. OU may go 5-7, and their coach is on the hot seat. Like, you can't name many places that could pull that off, or many coaching staffs to give those guys credit. Like, that's a lot of work, and I realize most of it was done before the trouble really came along. But to hold on to it, I mean, guys, look, today a 5-star flips from Alabama to Ole Miss. Like, these guys flip all the time for all sorts of reasons, and Oklahoma's holding strong with, not Brent Venables' deepest class, in my opinion, but a really strong one.
Yeah, I mean, it's It's going to be interesting. And signing day is, I mean, football signing day, is it going to matter this year or not? I mean,
first Wednesday in December, correct, Josh?
Are there national letters of intent this year or not?
So no, but did you see there's an article actually today by Ross Dellinger?
I need to read that because I haven't seen it yet.
He basically was talking about schools are sending out, because today's signing day for, I think, non-football sports.
Right. Yeah. Softball, basketball, baseball, golf.
Yeah.
I think, basically everything
So the way they did it is schools sent out NIL contracts and had the students sign NIL contracts. I would assume that is what football will be doing too in a couple weeks, is sending out NIL contracts for them to sign.
Which basically says this is how much money you'll get.
Yes.
And if you want to get out of it, though, you would just tear it up and then you wouldn't get any money.
Essentially, yeah, I would assume. But I think it's somewhat of a binding contract. Is the way I read it, at least.
It's interesting to see once they sign that contract, and and again, we talked about it on Monday, with the overwhelming majority of this class enrolling early. Once they're no longer high school students, are they able, or is it not until they enroll? Like, I don't know how that's going to work. Like, I don't really understand that little window of time from early December to mid-January.
Yeah, usually like different state laws are going to, depend on what happens. Like, are you getting paid while you're still in high school until you get here? If your state law allows it, I'm sure that's what they'll do. But yeah, I mean, there's so many. I need to really dig into this because I hate being so ignorant about something I'm talking about, because that's usually a lot of stuff. But
this says under Ryan Walters' plan, if you memorize the first book of Genesis, you get $500,000.
Oh my God!
Which I might
comments on that one. Not going to be
I might do.
I think you're safe criticizing that guy. I don't think.
I'm just glad Ryan Walters wants somebody to read. That's exciting. I mean, you know what?
Fair.
Borderline surprising.
Fair.
We know Josh is never moving back to Oklahoma as long as his kids are in school, and that guy's around.
That's a fact. That dude's around. Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll have a lot more next week to talk about that. I'm really going to make an effort to kind of dive into that stuff and see exactly, and I might even hit up One Oklahoma and see kind of how that. I might have George hit up One Oklahoma to see how that's going to work for them. But, yeah, it's a new age. Excited to see kind of what happens. Then, of course, you got revenue sharing staring you down the face to change everything else once again.
With as many early enrollees as Oklahoma has, I'm surprised that the university hasn't been like, okay, spring semester technically actually starts December 8th if you guys want to get here to campus. And we'll just give you a month off or a month and a half off before the actual semester starts.
Yeah.
Get them in like intercession
courses, yeah.
Right there in the middle. Uh-huh.
Anybody in favor of just Bedlam instead of a bowl game?
No, I don't even think either team wants that.
Josh says hell yes.
Hell yes?
I think
hell yes. I miss Bedlam. Bedlam's fun, man.
Yeah.
I hate
the idea of Bedlam would be more fun
bowl or some shit.
The idea of Bedlam would be a lot more fun than actually having
this might be a hot take. I think OU would win by like 14 to 21 points. I think OSU.
I think it'd be pretty close.
I think OSU's horrific.
I think OU's offense will keep everything's close.
That's kind of the problem. Like OSU's quit. I think they'd get up for Bedlam at least.
I still think I don't think OSU is scoring in that game, and I think OU could run the ball in that game.
That might be fair.
I'd be like, you can throw the ball 5 times all game. That's it. Like we're going back to the wishbone.
It would be like the Missouri game plan.
Could the OU Texas 22 game plan they roll out get some yards against OSU right now?
Yes.
Braden Willis just has like 300 yards.
The Texas game plan, the OU Texas game plan in 22 could be better than the game plan OU's putting out against anybody.
That's fair.
I mean, they did go right down the field in that opening drive.
Yeah, they did. They did. Didn't score, but they did.
Jackson Arnold got outplayed by Drew Pine on Saturday night.
It's crazy.
I can't wrap my head around that.
And really, it was just for, I don't know,
like 3 minutes.
Yeah, I was like trying to think of like a way to like 12 plays, basically, because they were both bad.
I think Dari had the most damaging statement yesterday, which was, I believe he said he didn't think OU had a single receiver that could start on another SEC team.
Yeah, and that's somebody that like truly watches all the games.
Yeah, he's in studio. Yeah,
and that's
studio. That's
without their top 5 guys.
Sure.
Like Deion Burks, I think could start for a lot of teams. I think a healthy Nick Anderson and Jaden Gibson could start for teams.
But that goes back to everything we talked about Jackson. Like, how do you
I'd like to know
judge
exactly
the body
how
of
good
work?
Deion Works actually is.
How good he actually is. Oh yeah, like with a functional offense.
Yeah.
Which, by the way,
because all we've heard is, he was great all spring, he was great all summer. He hasn't done, guys. Even when he has had opportunities, like it hasn't looked like, oh my Lord, like this is amazing. Like and I admit they're few and far between. I know he's not 100%, so I don't want to say I've drawn a final conclusion. But if I'm honest, I expected more even from what little he's gotten.
I mean, it's pretty damning when you talk about like even the first half from Saturday night in Missouri. Jackson Arnold had as many passing yards as the punter.
Yeah, they were dead even at halftime.
I don't believe he had a pass over 15 yards in the game.
Yeah,
they threw the ball 24 times and had 74 yards. Guys, I don't know.
We're talking about a two-headed quarterback system. Have we considered the Taylor Tatum-Luke Elzinga combination? There was 2 for 2 for 61 yards and a touchdown on Saturday night.
I didn't love the Tatum throw.
I'm just saying.
I didn't love either throw, but Elzinga's was better.
I'm a baseball guy. Yeah.
By the way,
I love the design of that fake. That was a great. I like the way that whole thing was set.
You just can't celebrate and then get a delay game penalty. Jesus.
George is getting upset. He's going to quit the show.
No, this is actually like a really sad thing, but just awful news about Deion Burks' parents' house.
It's terrible. Crazy. It's good his dad was there.
Yeah.
That he was able to catch it, because that would have burned their whole house down.
Yeah.
Sad.
I've reached out to see if there's anything people can do, but Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah, he's from Michigan. I think
his dad's message. That dude's a G, man. Like he was like, I don't need nothing. I got this. Like, all right, that's my kind of guy, man. I that was nothing but respect.
And he was supposed to be at the game. If you haven't seen his Facebook post, he's actually supposed to be in the game. Had some stuff mess up. He ended up missing his flight, so he was down in this basement watching the game, and he heard a bunch of commotion upstairs, and he went up there, and his daughter's room, I think, was on fire.
Yeah, and he didn't see the end of the game, and so people were texting him like, "Hey, Deion got hit," and he was like, "Well, my kid's a badass. Like he'll be fine."
Yeah,
that's basically what he said. So
it's crazy.
All right. Anything else you guys wanted to hit on before we get out of here?
I still think it's insane that Florida is allowing Todd Golden to coach the basketball.
That's
the story that broke on Friday when we were driving up to Kansas City. It's like, I know that there's always two sides to a story and all of that, but like there's been no action from the University of Florida to do anything. You at least have to
put him on like suspension,
administrative leave or
something until the situation's figured out. Yeah.
I just don't understand like why A, it's not a bigger story, and then B, like why Scott Strickland hasn't received any like hate for it, or at least publicity. I don't know. The whole thing's like it's just crazy to me.
Are you guys surprised they're keeping Billy Napier?
With all that going on, no. But I do think that like they've at least been functional. I don't know.
I think if you have a quarterback like DJ Lagway that was playing as well as he was before he got hurt, you're just like, okay, this could be a lot. They're probably in the. I mean, and they've had the NIL problems too. I mean, I don't think they're that far off from what OU is looking at in terms of buyout. I mean, they just hired him.
It just is crazy to me that we're sitting here and we, as a majority, have kind of said that Brent Venables should be fired, and we're saying, well, yeah, give Billy Napier another year. He's 6-7, 5-7, 4-5 in 3 years. I mean, it's like what?
Well, we're a lot more connected to this than the ins, and I don't watch Florida every week. I don't really know what's.
All I know about Florida is I always thought Graham Mertz was overrated.
I think he was rated very properly shitty.
Well, he had like the very first NIL deal and stuff when he was at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Or I think he was the first person to ever come out with his own like clothing line or something.
Maybe he's just an entrepreneur.
Well, and guys, how much of it do you think Scott Strickland with what's going on with the basketball coach, and he's had guys. If you go look, Florida's had several problems. Like this isn't the first guy that Strickland's brought in, or I think Girl, maybe even two. I don't want to say I'm sure about that, but they've had several coaches that have been a little problematic off the court or off the field.
Yeah.
So for me, if I'm Scott Strickland, it's like Billy Napier's my only hope. Like because I think if he fires Billy Napier, everyone's going to be like, we're not letting you make the next hire. Yeah. Like your only chance is if you don't get to make the next decision. And so he's kind of like, I'm just tethered to Billy Napier here. So that's got to go well. Maybe DJ Lagway comes back because at least, again, in Lagway, he showed you enough to be like, okay, maybe he's got something. And if Napier's gone, Lagway's gone. So that, to me, it's all kind of connected from the athletic director to the quarterback.
And I would also say, to bring this back to OU, is obviously Joe C doesn't have the history like that of Strickland and all these off the field, off the court issues and hiring coaches. But I do think Joe C is tying himself to Brent in this. And like he is basically saying, I'm going to ride or die with Brent until the end here. Like he made the hire, he believes in him, and he's going to try and help him figure this out. And I think that he's going to be pretty involved in the offensive coordinator hire, whether that's, vetting them or just making sure that Brent has the money to hire whoever he wants to hire, all of those things. The question is, are the boosters going to be behind it too? Like that's one thing that Joe C and Joe Harris can go out there and support Brent all they want. Are the guys paying the big bucks supporting it too? And that's kind of the question for me. And I think that they're going to give him, the boosters will give him another year, but it's going to have to be a pretty big turnaround next year for him to keep his job in 2026.
I do think that like we would be talking about Brent being fired if you didn't look out there and go, the defense is making some strides. Yeah. There is some young guys within
even
the
program.
program.
Special teams.
Special teams has been really solid. Like it's truly, and I think this is maybe the most frustrating part about it. It's one side of the football, and it's very obvious what the problem is.
And I think that Brent knows that he effed up hiring Seth and Joe John. Like I think, I know there's a lot of people out there. He knows that he effed that up, and now it's all about that. He's got one chance to fix it.
Mom getting mad at you for all the cursing out last weekend?
Yeah, no, not really, but I think that my mom would agree that it was necessary. She's mad too.
How did the great Sam Stoya take it?
He's depressed.
I know Eddie's dad's depressed.
It starts with a D. I would maybe be more disgusted than depressed.
Okay.
So somewhere in between depressed and disgusted.
Yeah, no, my
guys
dad
from Chicago don't get depressed either.
I know. I think that we just live in depression.
He'll be there though. He'll be there though next week. He's going to the LSU game.
So are my parents.
So they're loyal.
Maybe your parents should have a meal together or something.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Funny story, I ran into Eddie's parents before the main game.
George totally big timed him.
I was hustling because I was running behind. And
you realize Karen Radosevich has supported basically this business.
It was your dad. It was your dad that stopped me and said, "Hey, George." And I just was like, all I saw was the unofficial 40 hat. So I was like, "Oh, it's probably just a listener." And I was like, "Hey," and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" or something. And then I just kept going, and I just
have you
glanced.
Met him? I don't think you've.
Yeah, I've met
George.
Your mom.
I meant to sit you down and tell you this earlier, but you're kind of becoming a dick.
For what?
Your head's getting a little too big.
What have I done?
You're walking past people's parents that you know.
Well,
and just
let me tell the story.
Them.
His dad, who I've never met, I don't believe, said, "What's up?" And I said, "Hey, what's up?" And I saw the hat, and then I kept walking, and then I saw his mom as I glanced. I was like, "Wait a second!" And then I turned, and it was too late. At this point, they were like,
swallowed
"Oh wow!"
by people.
Oh wow! He just blew us off, and I was like, and then I just was like, "I gotta go," and so I just kept going. But.
Did you relay the story to Eddie?
Yeah, I told him.
I apologize and stuff for not stopping.
I just told him, I was like, yeah, I saw your parents, but I didn't know if it was them or not for a second, and then I just kept going.
But you didn't tell him I'm sorry.
No.
You want to do that now?
I'm sorry, Karen.
They don't accept.
Let's all just turn down
it.
our microphones. Let's turn on our headphones. Let George have a little one-on-one with the Radosoviches, and then we can come back in once he's done.
She might not believe him if he doesn't say it on Fox News. To be completely 100% transparent.
I know that's 100% true. That's
terribly relatable.
All right. I think that's going to do it.
Any big come on, we can talk more. Any big college football games this weekend you're watching? I feel like the slate's not as good this weekend.
Josh, what's going on in Athens outside of Carson Beck just completely melting? Like I thought that they would go win.
Their offensive line is not very good.
They're terrible for Georgia standards, for like what we thought that this was going to be. The idea of Georgia not even making the college football playoff is almost as surprising as as poorly as this gone in Norman. They might be comparable in surprise.
In the post game, you said something about like Georgia's offensive line getting dominated, and you were almost like, "Well, look how good that Ole Miss D line is." And you were like, "I don't want that. I don't want that." And I was like, I did the same thing. I almost was like, "Look, I guess maybe Ole Miss a little better than you guys were." And
you somehow took a positive for OU out of that, and you're like, "No,
I was like, nope,
I can't."
Nope. I was like, I had it kind of typed, and I was like, "Nope, I'm not messing with those guys." But it was, I mean. I don't know what's happened to Carson Beck, but I mean, guys, I thought he was going to be top 3 pick, maybe number 1 overall, like coming into the year. I thought he was going to have a massive year.
You know what's crazy,
and
Josh?
He looks lost.
They have some of the same problems that OU does. All their receivers are tiny, the athletic guys, and then he just doesn't have anybody to replace the 2 guys that he lost last year. Like they just don't. He does not have the weapons in the passing game, and they are not running the ball particularly, like they're used to. So it's just slowly stripped away his confidence, I think, throughout the season.
I think you're right. I mean, it's just, and it's like the first half of that Alabama game, you're like, holy shit, who is this guy? And then you thought, oh, okay, here he is. Second half, he went up there and kind of lit Alabama up. I think we've come to realize that Alabama is just not that great on defense. I mean, like, guys, think about this. I was talking on the board chat today about this. Oklahoma's going to play Alabama and LSU in back-to-back weeks and probably is going to have the best defense on the field both games. That's crazy considering where this was 5 years ago.
I'm really curious to see, and we got plenty of time to talk about it, but Milroe, he defeats defenses with his speed. I mean, I watched the game. I literally watched the LSU player make the form of a U because he took such a bad angle trying to get Milroe as he was breaking, out of the edge. Like, he started running in a direction, and as soon as Milroe hit top speed, he was like, nope. He was like, oh, shit, I took the wrong angle. And it was so far, behind him, you could literally see a U shape as he, as they replayed it over and over again. Like, he's just incredible.
The way Alabama's playing right now, I think they can win the national title.
I don't think that's.
I'm looking at the playoff rankings right
thing.
now, and I watched a little bit of the show last night. I know Eddie doesn't support the show, but I was looking at the rankings. How many of these teams do you think can legitimately win a national title? Because I was thinking about it last night watching. I was like, I can convince myself of like 6 teams winning the national title this year.
I think any team that is it crazy to say, or is it dumb to say? Any team that makes the playoff can win.
No, I think that is crazy because I don't think
BYU's not
okay.
winning.
Like outside
or Indiana.
I'm talking to like the big represented programs.
Yeah, no. I'm looking at it right now. I think Oregon, Ohio State, Texas. I don't think Penn State can. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia. You can convince me any of those schools would win the national title.
Don't know if I'm there on Notre Dame.
I don't know if I'm either, but if somebody gave me a really strong argument, I was like, okay,
sure.
Maybe.
I think Ohio State can. I think Texas can.
You don't think Oregon can?
I don't know. I've kind of convinced myself, like when they play like a big boy team up front, I've just kind of gone into this narrative that's out there that they don't have the OLDL to do it. Now, I know that they beat Ohio State, but I don't know. I guess you have to. I mean, they're undefeated. They're the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah. I mean, I think
could college football have asked for a better year to have the inaugural 12-team playoff? Because 3 years ago, this is just a Georgia-Alabama bloodbath. And now there's a whole mess of guys, we're not even talking about Georgia right now.
I know.
Like, Georgia's not even in this freaking thing. And that's just wild.
I also don't think Miami can.
I don't know if Miami can.
I think they FO too much.
I'm skeptical on Miami, Notre Dame, Penn State.
I know nothing
Indiana.
about Penn State.
Yeah. I also don't. Penn State's fourth. That's crazy. I also don't know about Tennessee.
Without Nico, I don't think they're winning this weekend without Nico. So I guess you could exclude them. They go to Athens on Saturday.
Can someone explain to me with the show, why do they bother with the just true rankings and then have to go through the convoluted presentation of, but these are the top 4? Just make those your top 4 and then go from there. It's so stupid and confusing to people that are trying to watch it at home that maybe don't follow it every single moment.
But
it's such a poor presentation.
But the system
who at
is
home
stupid.
watches that between 2 basketball games that doesn't know what's going on?
True.
Oh, that's true.
That's fair, but there are still people that Penn State's the number 4 seed. Oh, wait. And then they don't understand that, no, they're not because they didn't win the Big Ten.
Well, this is for sure recency bias. I don't think it's crazy that Ole Miss could win the national championship.
I don't think so either. I think they're really, really good on both sides.
Now,
of
it's
the ball.
easy for me to say that, and I thought that Georgia would go into Oxford and win. But if it's going to be largely predicated on matchups. Like, are you having to go to Austin, or I guess they'd have a bye? Are you having to go to Knoxville or South Bend or Miami? It's going to be really interesting to see how that affects things.
I also think Texas is one of the most complete teams, if not the most complete team in the country right now. Yeah. But
I think that's fair.
I think, though, Josh, your point about the TV thing, I agree with you. The way they present it's dumb. But the system's dumb. I don't understand why you're rewarding teams. I get rewarding a team for winning their conference championship. But you cannot convince me that BYU deserves a bye. That makes no sense to me. You rank them. Who are the 4 best teams? Those 4 teams get a bye. That to me, I don't understand giving.
If OU is still in the Big 12, would you feel like that?
No, because they're Oklahoma. But also, I would. It would if Oklahoma was undefeated in the Big 12 in a shitty schedule and they were ranked 2nd or 3rd or 4th, they get a bye over somebody like, say, Texas this year that is like a 1-loss SEC runner-up.
Right.
I'd be like, that's ridiculous.
You know why they're doing this, though, right?
Why?
They want to make championship weekend worth something. If you don't put something on that championship weekend,
just make it an automatic bid.
And a team really wanted to win the national championship. If it doesn't matter for a meaningless game, and the TV networks, for sure want those games to be important, you would take a bye. You would rest your starters.
But I would still, but why? But you wouldn't still be a top 4 seed if you go in and you lose. You likely wouldn't be the top 4 seed. I just think it's dumb that they're doing this thing where they're not giving the 4 best teams the bye.
The byes.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
There's a part of me that does think that you need to be rewarded for winning a conference, though.
I agree, but that should just be the automatic bid. Just like if Colorado's right on the edge and they go win the Big 12, they get in.
Sure.
They're automatically in.
What are you saying, Josh?
I was going to say, this is the conspiracy theorist in me. I think this is all part of the SEC and Big Ten's play. They love that BYU is doing this, and everybody knows BYU has no chance to win this thing and are going to be the number 4 seed because it allows the SEC to and the Big Ten to basically collude and junk this thing up to 14 or 16 or whatever they're going to do and eliminate the top 4. Like and they're going to say top 4 is top 4 because every year they're going to have the top 4, the SEC and the Big Ten. I don't even know, maybe a Florida State or a Clemson ruins that every once in a while. But by and large, they're just going to set themselves up at the top seed because everyone's going to go watch whenever, whoever plays BYU, if things go as they are now in the second round and BYU just gets housed by, say, Ole Miss or something like that. I mean, guys, Ole Miss would lay waste to BYU. Up front, BYU cannot block those guys. No way in hell.
I gotta say the Utah athletic director, I loved every minute of him barging into that press conference and lodging a formal complaint.
It's worth every penny.
It was great, but it was stupid. Like, I didn't...
Great things are stupid, Josh. I mean, I say everybody's mad at me because I don't argue on Twitter anymore because I'm not being stupid.
All I could think about is, like, could you imagine Joe Castiglione coming in and...
Oh, my God.
Like, I was like, what if he would have done that? Like,
I might have given him a standing ovation if he ever did that.
What if he did that, like, after the Oregon game in 2000?
He should have.
When they were covered the onside? That would have been awesome.
What about the Bedlam game a couple years ago?
Yeah. Last year. The PI. Right? Is that what you referring
to? The Drake Stoops?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there was 2 straight years there. I guess 2 of 3. You had the 2021 thing with Caleb when he threw into the end zone, and then Drake Stoops last year.
No, I love
Who was that got tackled in 21?
Was it Trayvon West?
Where?
I think it was, George. That sounds kind of right. The one in Stillwater, the last play of the game when Caleb chucked it up into the end zone.
I don't remember that as much as thinking Caleb was going to score when he broke away.
I don't know.
Lincoln told him not to.
How about every...
well, they talked about it on the car ride up there.
Exactly.
You know, one thing that keeps happening this year... We can wrap this up, by the way. We're going long. But one thing that keeps happening this year, Eddie, I don't know if you've noticed, is every team that beats Oklahoma plays that damn Luke Combs song.
Oh,
Ain't No Love in Oklahoma.
Ain't No Love in Oklahoma. I kind of like the song.
I love the song, too, but it's like Tennessee did it in their locker room.
To be completely honest, I haven't even noticed.
Yeah, well, I think it's because a lot of times I hear it in the locker room because I'll go to the away, but like Ole Miss did it when they won.
Did they? I remember that. That was on the field on the PA system.
Missouri did it as soon as the final buzzer. It was Ain't No Love in Oklahoma. Tennessee played it in their locker room. South Carolina played it in their locker room.
That's funny.
It's
not funny.
We gave those bastards Twister, and they're using it against us.
Yeah.
Damn it.
I think Luke Texas Combs played it in their locker room as well.
Did they?
Yeah. I think every team that OU's lost to this year has played that song.
It's definitely not an excuse, favorites. And I'm not saying that it changes anything, but like very few times do you predict something or we talk about something in August and it's like you look back up and it's like, damn, that was maybe worse than it was. But what was the stat that you threw out there this week, George, with the schedule and the teams that OU's played? Like they have played. Like you look just look at the college football playoff rankings. Like.
You're talking about how difficult the schedule was.
It's been a murderer's row. And for a team that has had as many problems as they've had offensively, it's like, God bless. What do we expect?
If somebody on the board put up...
it's crazy. I mean, they've played the best of the best.
Shout out, I think it's My Three Savages on the board. Posted like something about SP+. They like went back and looked up like the most difficult schedules the last few years. And Oklahoma, by a large margin, has the most difficult schedule in the SEC in the last like 3 seasons.
Tough ask when you obviously have the problems that they have right now in Norman.
Well, like I said when we started, I'm glad that Joe Harroz and Joe Castiglione came out and made statements. It lets people wrap their heads around it. I know we still have some stragglers that just move on to, well, now Joe Harroz and Joe Castiglione need to go. But I think we just need to get to a place, and who knows how the hell this all blows up after an Alabama loss. But I think it's important for people to just realize, okay, they're probably bringing Brent back. Let's try and move forward, figure out how this gets better, hold on to the recruiting class, all of that. Like, it just gives you a place to start from versus just having, I don't even know how many times we've made message board geniuses.
A lot.
It's been a lot since the Missouri loss. So
it is kind of a badge of honor. It does show the passion of the fan base.
Yeah, it's great. I just wish it didn't happen so much. Guys, any last things before we take off?
I don't think so. Congratulations to Jenny Baranchek's group. They won by, what was the final today? They
122 to 56.
They set the school record for, so they won by 62. Is that right? Or 66?
I saw the old record was 121.
They set the school record for points scored in a game, 122.
They could have scored more.
I almost started tabulating how many points OU scored in conference play. I think they outscored them today. Wow. So congratulations.
Oh, man. That's better not to
They're
put
really,
that out
really
in the
good.
universe,
They are really, really good.
We will start having some hoops reports. I know Josh, last thing he wants is a lot of basketball talk on the U40, so we'll wait until the season really gets going.
This might be exactly what he needs now, like a little basketball talk.
I think the Candlelit
so I can
vigil
hate something else
too.
for a while.
Yeah, I think it did. Get at me too. DM me if you're looking to have your child baptized. That's my next move. I had a vigil, and now I want to baptize children.
I can't even connect the dots on
in
that.
Lake Hefner.
And that'll do it for this week's edition of
Yes,
Unofficial 40.
thank you,
That's
Eddie.
holy water. I'm not saying drown them. I'm
Edward
saying
Lawrence
baptize them.
Radosevich
Use the
III.
water from Lake Hefner. We'll do it on the shore by Louis, Lakeside.
Anyway, that's going to do it. Had some yesterday. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 right here on Soonerscoop.com.